You don't always need to speak for your presence to be felt. Sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is the one you never say aloud. There is a silence that is not born of fear or defeat, but of strength. A silence that doesn't retreat, but rises, quietly and firmly, above the noise. This kind of silence is not weakness. It is the reclaiming of your energy, your dignity, your peace. It is a return to stillness, the place where your true power has always lived. The Buddha once said, "If your words are not more beautiful than silence, do not speak." So why do we keep offering explanations to those who refuse to listen? Why do we pour our hearts into conversations with people who have already made up their minds? You've tried to explain. You've reached out with clarity. You've defended your truth. But still, your words were twisted, your heart misunderstood, and your peace slowly drained. This is more than just frustration. This is spiritual exhaustion, a deep weariness that comes from trying to be heard in places where your silence would have spoken more clearly. What if those moments when you feel the urge to speak are not invitations to argue, but opportunities to surrender to something wiser? What if silence is the doorway through which karma walks in? Sometimes you don't need to respond. Sometimes your greatest wisdom is found in stepping back and letting the universe do what your voice cannot. In this video, we'll explore 7 sacred moments when silence is not only wise, but freeing. Moments rooted in ancient Buddhist teachings, offering you a path back to peace, clarity, and quiet strength. And at the end, there is a final lesson, one often overlooked, yet powerful enough to transform everything you thought you knew about letting go. We invite you to reflect. If you feel called, type "Silence is my power" in the comments, or share a moment when you discovered the quiet strength of saying nothing at all. And if this video leaves you with only one truth, let it be this: you don't rise by reacting, you rise by releasing. Let go, let karma speak, and let the silence lead you home. Now let us begin. 1. When you're not heard, stop speaking, start observing. When your voice begins to feel invisible, when your words are no longer received with openness but distorted by closed hearts, it is time to pause. Not to give up, but to rise inwardly. When the world no longer hears you, it's not always an invitation to speak louder. It's an invitation to become still. Because in that stillness, there is power, there is awareness, there is the kind of clarity that only silence can bring. How many times have you tried to explain yourself, again and again, only to feel more misunderstood with each attempt? In moments like these, silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the decision to no longer waste your sacred energy convincing those who refuse to listen. In Buddhism, this is not seen as avoidance. It is a form of mindfulness, a choice to observe rather than react, a discipline that reflects inner strength. There is a story in Buddhist tradition, one of the Eightfold Path, where right speech is a pillar of spiritual life. But what many forget is that silence, too, is part of right speech. Not all truth must be spoken. Not all battles require our voice. Sometimes the truest strength lies in stepping back, in allowing the silence to do what words cannot. Because silence, when rooted in clarity, becomes a mirror. It reflects intentions, it reveals character, and in its stillness, karma begins to unfold, without force, without noise. To observe instead of argue is not indifference, it is self-respect. When you stop seeking validation from those who diminish your truth, you reclaim your peace. You set a sacred boundary. In today's world, where loudness is often mistaken for power, choosing silence is an act of rebellion. A gentle, unwavering rebellion against chaos, noise, and ego. So breathe. With every inhale, release the need to explain yourself. With every exhale, let go of the need to be understood by everyone. Your worth is not dependent on being believed. Your path doesn't require permission. If someone truly values your truth, they will feel it in your presence, not in your defense. If they truly respect your peace, they will not demand you sacrifice it for their comfort. There is a kind of freedom that arrives when you no longer feel the urge to argue your value. Let them talk. Let karma listen, because karma is not revenge, it is balance. And when you respond with silence, you open space for that balance to return. Trust that the universe will answer in the spaces where you remain still. So the next time you find yourself unheard, pause. Resist the pull to react. Say nothing. Let your silence reveal what your words never could. Because those who cannot understand your silence are unlikely to ever understand your words. Stay grounded. Stay calm. Let go of the need to be right, and trust that your silence is not an ending, but the beginning of something higher. In that sacred quiet, you are not losing, you are mastering yourself. And now, as we move forward into the next sacred moments where silence becomes your inner power, ask yourself, am I still trying to be understood? Or am I finally ready to understand myself? Lesson 2. When fire rises within, let silence be your rain. There are moments when anger flashes like lightning, sudden, fierce, and blinding. Your breath quickens, your chest tightens, and before your thoughts can catch up, your words have already rushed out, cutting sharper than you intended. We often believe that speaking in anger is a show of strength, but in truth, the deeper strength lies not in expression, but in restraint. Not in letting the fire burn through others, but in choosing to let it fade within. In the teachings of the Buddha, anger is one of the 3 poisons that cloud the mind, alongside greed and ignorance. It is a flame that consumes not only what it touches, but also the one who carries it. Anger is not something to proudly release into the world. It is something to observe, to understand, and most importantly, to dissolve. Because most of the time, anger doesn't vanish after it's expressed. It lingers. It spreads. It finds its way into words, into relationships, into innocent moments that had nothing to do with its origin. And so the suffering continues. But silence, when practiced with awareness, is like cool rain falling on the fire. It doesn't ignore the heat. It simply refuses to feed it. So the next time you feel that familiar burn rising within, pause. Don't speak. Close your eyes. Let the moment hold you. Inhale deeply and become the watcher of your own storm. Watch the fire, not to fight it, but to let it pass. For when you observe anger without reacting, it loses its grip. There is a parable of a monk who, when insulted by a bitter man, said nothing. Later, when asked why he didn't respond, the monk replied with a gentle smile, "If someone offers you a gift and you choose not to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" This is the wisdom of silence. It's not passivity, it's power. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. When you choose not to engage, you are not surrendering the moment, you are mastering it. Ask yourself honestly, how many times has anger resolved what silence could have healed more gently? How often has speaking in rage created wounds that needed more words to mend? Anger may make you feel right, but silence helps you be right. The first defends your pride, the second protects your peace. In the quiet space between reaction and response, you gain what most people spend lifetimes chasing: control. True control. You are no longer driven by emotion, you are guided by awareness. You are not reacting from habit, you are responding from wisdom. And that shift, that pause, that silence, is self-mastery. So when anger visits you next, don't let it speak. Let it sit. Let your silence cradle it. Let karma be your voice. Let time reveal what you don't need to say. Because truth does not need volume, and justice does not need rage. In silence, there is a power far greater than fury. It is the power of peace. Are you reacting just because it's what you've always done? Or are you finally learning to listen to the stillness within? The more you embrace silence in moments of fire, the louder your inner peace begins to speak. And that voice, it doesn't just calm a moment, it transforms a life. Remember this: The strongest one in the room is not the loudest. It is the one who can hold the fire inside their chest and still choose not to let it burn their tongue. Be that one. Let silence cool the fire, and let karma take care of the rest. Lesson 3. When ego demands a stage, let silence be your crown. There will be times when pride knocks at your door, whispering urgently, "Speak up, prove your worth, remind them who you are." It's a soft but persistent voice, pulling you into the arena of validation. Maybe you've felt it, that sudden urge to defend yourself, to prove you're not small, to shout your victories just so no one mistakes your silence for weakness. But in those moments, ask yourself, is this pride speaking, or insecurity wearing a louder costume? In Buddhist teachings, pride is not a badge of honor. It's the bait that pulls you back into suffering. Pride invites you to chase the approval of others, to measure your worth by how loud your voice is or how visible your achievements are. But real strength, quiet, rooted, unshakable strength, has no need to announce itself. As the old wisdom goes, the empty vessel makes the loudest sound. True power doesn't parade, it simply is. There's nothing wrong with knowing your worth. But when you feel the itch to prove it, that's when you must pause. Because if your value depends on being seen, it's not value, it's performance. And performance is for the ego, not the soul. Picture a lion. It does not explain that it is a lion. It does not roar to prove its strength. It simply exists, with grace, with presence, with power that needs no confirmation. That same truth lives in you. When you are grounded in who you are, you no longer seek to be understood. You simply embody understanding. You let your stillness speak for you. You let your journey shine without spotlight or applause. Humility, in the Buddhist view, isn't denying your greatness. It's not needing to advertise it. You let karma be your voice. Let time reveal what needs no introduction. In that stillness, you are not retreating. You are transcending. You become like the mountain, calm, immovable, towering. Not because you shouted for attention, but because you stood tall in silence. And in that silence, something sacred unfolds. Your energy speaks without noise, your character speaks without defense, and your growth speaks louder than any argument ever could. Who are you still trying to impress, and why? What if the strongest version of you isn't the one who fights to be seen, but the one who doesn't need to be? What if your silence is the crown you've always worn, but never noticed? When you stop chasing approval, the real you emerges. Not the you sculpted by external opinions, but the one shaped by awareness, by purpose, by peace. The ego begs for a spotlight, but your soul doesn't need the stage. Even in the shadows, it glows. So the next time pride tempts you to step into the ring and prove yourself, choose something braver. Decline the invitation. Walk away, not in defeat, but in mastery. Let others talk. Let others boast. You, just be. Be still. Be calm. Be radiant in your silence. Because those who matter don't need to be convinced. And those who do never truly saw you to begin with. Let your growth whisper what pride tries to shout. Let karma do the rest. And above all, wear your silence like a crown, not for the world to admire, but for your soul to remember. Lesson 4. When shadows whisper, let silence lift you higher. There will be moments in life when you walk into a room and feel the tension thick in the air. Words unspoken to your face, but clearly spoken about you. Gossip is a shadow. It creeps in quietly, spreads quickly, and infects without proof. When you become its target, the first instinct is to defend yourself, to speak louder than the lies, to correct the twisted story. But ask yourself, do you really need to? Or is your peace worth more than the noise? Buddhist wisdom reminds us, when someone throws dirt, they lose ground. The more you respond, the more you get pulled into the mud. Gossip thrives on your reaction. It feeds on your attention. But when you choose silence, when you step away without explaining, the poison begins to lose its power. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you've chosen a higher ground. Think of a candle lit in a dark room. Flies may circle it, but they burn away in the light. You don't chase them. You simply shine. That's the energy of grounded silence. It's not weak. It's not afraid. It's clear. It's dignified. And in that clarity, karma starts to speak. Because while lies echo for a moment, truth always endures. Time reveals character more powerfully than any defense ever could. Close your eyes and imagine those voices, those rumors, those small circles of gossip, fading away like smoke in the wind. Nothing sticks to a spirit that doesn't cling. When you don't respond to the noise, you don't give it shape. When you rise above, you let your truth be seen, not through words, but through presence. And presence, true, quiet presence, is unshakable. You don't need to point fingers. You don't need to clear the fog. Let others expose themselves. They always do. What you need is to protect your peace, your focus, your purpose. Because when you step into the gossip, you lose your balance. You become part of a conversation that never deserved your voice in the first place. But when you walk away, you protect your energy. You stay aligned with who you are, not who they say you are. In Buddhist philosophy, right speech is one of the 8 paths to liberation. But equally powerful is right silence. This is not the silence of fear or defeat. It's the silence of power, the kind that heals, protects, and clears the way forward. So let your silence speak. Let your actions carry the truth your words don't need to defend. And let karma handle the rest. It always does. So the next time your name circles through lips that don't know your truth, breathe. Don't chase the fire they lit. Don't lower yourself into the fog they created. Ask yourself, can I let this pass without losing myself? Can I rise above, knowing who I am is louder than what they say? Because silence isn't retreat, it's wisdom. And from that high ground, nothing small can touch you. Let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them stir the storm. You, keep walking, keep rising, keep shining in silence. That's where your real power lives. Lesson 5. When the storm calls your name, be the mountain. There will be days when people test you, not because of something you've done, but because of something they carry. Their words come sharp, their tone biting, not to connect, but to trigger. And in those moments, your heart may race, your breath may tighten, and your ego may rise, ready to fire back. But pause. Ask yourself this: is the insult truly mine, if I choose not to receive it? Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the highest mastery is not the ability to control others, but to control the self. When someone provokes you and you react with anger, they win your peace. And most of us, without even thinking, give it away. We let others pull us like puppets on strings made of ego and pain. But you were never made for that. You are not the chaos others throw at you. You are the stillness beneath it. You are the mountain. Words are wind. No matter how loud the wind howls, the mountain does not move. It stands in quiet defiance, unmoved and whole. And in that stillness is a strength far greater than reaction could ever offer. When you stay rooted, when you choose not to react, you become untouchable. You see clearly that no one's opinion can define you unless you hand them that power. And in a world that constantly invites you to react, choosing peace becomes an act of rebellion. That's your power, your silent resistance to being pulled into battles that cost your soul. So, the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't answer with fire. Close your eyes and feel your feet on the ground. Breathe deep. Picture the insults as wind swirling around you, never touching your core. This is emotional discipline. This is mindfulness. You're not retreating, you're rising. Each time you refuse to react, you build strength. Each time you choose not to bite the bait, you grow taller in your spirit. Ask yourself, who do I give my peace to too easily? The coworker who jokes to belittle? The family member who always knows the right button to push. The stranger online who tosses pain into the world just to feel seen. What if silence is your greatest shield? What if calm is the strongest boundary you can draw? In Buddhist thought, anger is not just harmful. It's a thief. It steals clarity. It clouds wisdom. It binds you to the one who triggered you. But when you choose stillness, when you respond with peace, you cut the cord that ties you to their storm. Silence becomes the sword that frees you. You don't owe anyone your outrage. You owe yourself your peace. And that's the lesson. So when the storm comes, let it howl. Let the words swirl and the chaos rise. You, stay unmoved. Breathe. Smile if you must. Let karma respond for you, because karma never forgets, and your stillness speaks louder than any shout ever could. Be the mountain, be unshaken, and let your silence say everything. Lesson 6. When the past returns, greet it with silence. Sometimes, the past doesn't knock, it barges in. A familiar face, an old tone, a trigger that strikes just right, and suddenly, you're not in the present anymore. You're transported back, not in body, but in emotion. You're reacting the same way, speaking the same lines you once swore you were done with. It's like watching yourself in an old film you've seen too many times, and yet, you still recite the lines. But have you ever paused and asked, am I speaking from habit or from awareness? Buddhist wisdom whispers, what we do not heal, we are doomed to repeat. And sometimes, healing doesn't begin with confrontation. It begins with silence. Not silence as avoidance, but as a sacred pause. A decision to stop pouring energy into old patterns and start reclaiming your freedom. The past loves to tempt you into its familiar dance. It lures you back into old roles, hoping you'll play the same part. But silence is how you drop the script. It's the needle that lifts from the scratched record and lets you hear a new song. You don't need to fight the past. You don't need to defend yourself in battles that time has already left behind. You only need to stop participating. Let the urge to explain dissolve. Let the heat of the memory rise and pass. That's stillness you feel. That's power. That's you making a new choice. That's presence. You are not who you were when the wound was made. You don't have to keep speaking from the pain. You can speak from the peace, or say nothing at all, and let your healing echo in your silence. You're not responsible for fixing what others choose not to grow through. You're responsible for choosing yourself. What loops do you keep alive with your words? What arguments do you keep repeating just to be heard by people who only remember the outdated version of you? That cycle only continues if you keep feeding it. Silence is your rebellion. It's your boundary. It's the quiet decision to break the loop, not with force, but with freedom. The past cannot continue its story without your lines. And karma is already unfolding behind the scenes. You don't need to narrate it. You don't need to prove anything. You only need to step aside and rise. Some will try to keep you small because your old self made them feel big. But you're not here to echo pain. You're here to evolve. And your silence is your message to the universe. I'm done surviving the past. I'm ready to start living beyond it. So when that same old pain knocks again, don't greet it with the same noise. Breathe deeply. Let your silence rise like a mountain. Let karma sing its quiet song in the background while you walk forward in peace. Remember, what you don't respond to, you rise above. And what you stop feeding, it finally fades. Beyond the noise, beyond the explanations, there is your freedom. And it speaks most clearly through silence. Lesson 7. When life hurts, let karma speak for you. There are wounds too deep for words, betrayals that no apology can reach, moments when pain cracks through your chest, and all you want is to strike back, to make them feel what you felt. But in these moments, pause, not out of weakness, but from the strength of wisdom. Because true power isn't in retaliation, It's in the ability to rise without revenge. Ask yourself honestly, are you seeking justice or vengeance in disguise? It's a fine line, one rooted in ego, the other in truth. Buddhism reminds us, all things return to their source. What you send out, kindness or cruelty, lies or love, circles back, not on your timeline, but on life's own sacred clock. That is karma, silent, certain, like a river that doesn't need to roar to reach the ocean. When you've been wronged, silence can feel like surrender. But it isn't. It's restraint. It's choosing your peace over participation in the cycle of pain. To walk away when your heart is still bleeding isn't weakness, it's dignity, because karma never forgets. And when you try to control justice, you trap yourself in the same energy that hurt you. You don't heal by throwing back what was thrown at you. You heal by letting life balance what it must, by becoming the space where chaos can no longer breathe. Imagine your pain as a heavy stone. You could hurl it in anger, but you won't know where it lands or who it harms. Or you could gently place it down and walk away, allowing karma to decide whether that stone becomes a lesson, a loss, or a stepping stone in your path. You don't need to prove what was done to you. You don't need to explain the injustice. The truth doesn't need your defense. It unfolds when no one is watching, like tides returning, like leaves falling in season. Some lies unravel on their own. Some people collapse under the weight of what they carry. And some wounds only close when you stop reopening them with your anger. So let this be your quiet revolution. Not a scream, not a strike, not a battle plan, just a breath, just the decision to choose yourself, to stop giving your energy to those who've already lost their way. You're not weak for walking away. You're strong because you let go, because you chose peace when pain begged you to fight. Let karma speak for you. It doesn't shout, it doesn't miss. It arrives precisely when it's meant to, like winter turning to spring, like darkness giving way to light. And in its silence, you'll discover something more powerful than revenge. You'll find peace. Conclusion: in a world that constantly urges you to react, to fight back, to prove your worth through noise, remember this: the greatest strength often lives in your silence. When you choose stillness over struggle, when you allow karma to move in its own quiet way, you free yourself from the weight of battles that were never yours to carry. Let others chase justice with anger. Let them waste their peace trying to be right. But you, walk a different path, one of clarity, one of calm, one where your energy is sacred, your presence is power, and your silence is not emptiness, but wisdom. If this message touched something deep within you, take a breath. Let it settle. And if you feel ready, join us on this journey of mindful strength, quiet wisdom, and spiritual clarity. Subscribe to the channel if you believe in protecting your peace. Like the video if silence